My name is Leila. Ever since I can remember, whispers about my grandmother's wedding filled our house, stories that were never complete. Photographs lined the walls. Men and women smiled, but their eyes were empty, as if something had vanished from their gaze. Some of the older relatives would talk about Amara, my grandmother's sister, in hushed tones, but their words were always clipped, unfinished. It felt as though saying her name aloud might summon something forgotten. One stormy afternoon, I decided to clean the attic. Rain lashed against the windows, wind rattled the shutters, and leaves scraped against the walls. The attic had been untouched for decades. Dust covered every surface, and the air smelled of old wood and paper. I began opening boxes, each revealing fragments of the past: letters, old shoes, pieces of jewelry, wedding invitations, long yellowed and curling at the edges. Then, in the far corner, something glimmered faintly under a pile of moth-eaten lace. I bent down and pulled it out. A wedding dress, white, tattered, but still holding an air of elegance, as if it had been preserved by the memory of a day that never came. Beside it lay a delicate golden crown, small enough to fit on a head no taller than a child, with intricate filigree that hinted at some hidden message or story. The moment I touched the dress, the attic seemed to shift. The temperature dropped suddenly, and I felt as if unseen eyes were watching me. A soft, sorrowful laugh echoed faintly from the shadows, a laugh that was not joyful, but heavy with loss. My heart raced, my hands trembled, and a chill ran down my spine. On the dress was a tiny label, embroidered in faded gold thread. Forgotten. I ran downstairs to ask my grandmother about it. She paused, mid-stir of her tea, her hand shaking. Her face lost color, and her eyes were fixed on something far away. "Leila, some things are meant to be forgotten," she whispered. I pressed her. Who is she, the woman in the dress? Tears filled her eyes. Amara, my sister. She vanished on the day she was supposed to marry. Everyone forgot her, everyone except me. The words sank into me like ice. My fingers lingered on the lace and the crown, realizing that these weren't mere objects. They were remnants of a life erased, waiting for someone to remember. That night, sleep eluded me. I dreamed of a woman in a white wedding dress, standing silently in our garden. Her face was blurred, but when she raised her hand, I felt a shiver run down my spine. She wasn't angry, not exactly, but her eyes were full of longing, sorrow, and a quiet plea. As the storm raged outside, I couldn't shake the feeling that the attic and the dress were calling me to uncover what had been lost for decades. The next morning, the rain had stopped, leaving the garden wet and glistening. But the memory of the dress and the crown refused to leave my mind. I returned to the attic, drawn by a force I didn't understand. The air felt thicker here, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Inside the box where I had first found the dress, I discovered a stack of letters tied with a red ribbon, now brittle with age. The seal on each letter bore the initials A.R., Amara's. My hands shook as I untied the ribbon and unfolded the first letter. If you are reading this, know that I was never meant to be forgotten. The world turned away, but I remain, waiting for someone to remember me. Find the dress. Find me. The words were haunting, as if the ink itself carried her voice. I felt the weight of decades pressing down on me. I realized that Amara's story had been erased not just from memory, but from every trace of the world. Her existence had been swallowed by silence. I spent hours reading the letters. They spoke of Amara's hopes and dreams for her wedding, her excitement, and the people she trusted. But there were also hints of jealousy, betrayal, and threats. Someone, or perhaps many, wanted her gone. The letters ended abruptly, leaving a dark, unspoken danger lingering in the air. As I read, the temperature in the attic dropped. The dress on the floor shimmered faintly, as if reacting to my attention. A soft whisper brushed against my ear. You remembered me. I froze. Turning slowly, I saw a figure at the far end of the attic pale, wearing a tattered wedding gown. Her eyes were wide, filled with longing and grief. She did not speak. She raised a hand toward the dress, trembling slightly, urging me to follow. I stepped forward, and with each step, the air grew colder, the shadows thicker. I realized that Amara had been trapped not by walls, but by memory itself, forgotten by everyone, yet anchored to this world by the dress and the crown. I reached out to her, and as our fingers almost touched, the attic shook slightly, dust falling from the beams above. I understood then. This was not merely a haunting. It was a plea for acknowledgement, a demand that her story be told. By the time I descended the attic stairs that night, I was no longer just a curious granddaughter. I had become the keeper of Amara's memory, tasked with uncovering a story that had been buried for decades, and facing whatever danger had silenced her. Over the next few days, I couldn't focus on anything else. Every shadow in the house seemed to move with intention. Every creak of the floorboards sounded like a message. The letters had guided me this far, but now they hinted at something deeper, something I wasn't ready to face alone. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long orange shadows across the house, I returned to the attic. The air was heavy, almost suffocating. Dust hung in the light, and the dress lay exactly where I had left it, untouched, as though waiting. Among the letters, I found one that I hadn't noticed before. It was sealed with a black ribbon, frayed at the edges. I opened it carefully. The dress is not just fabric. It is the key to remembering me. Bring it to the place where my life ended, and the truth will be revealed. Only then can I rest. A chill ran down my spine. Where could her life have ended? I searched the attic and discovered a hidden floorboard beneath the old rug. Lifting, it revealed a narrow staircase spiraling down into darkness. I hesitated, but the sense of duty, or perhaps fear, pushed me forward. The The stairs led to a small stone chamber below the house. The walls were lined with old portraits of people I didn't recognize, their eyes eerily lifelike, watching me. At the center of the chamber was a wooden chest. My hands trembled as I placed the dress and crown inside. The chest seemed to hum, vibrating with a presence I could feel but not see. Suddenly, the chamber grew colder, and a faint glow filled the room. I turned slowly, and there she was, Amara. Pale and ethereal, her eyes wide with sorrow, yet shining with relief. "I've waited for someone to remember me," she whispered. I stepped closer, hands outstretched. The glow around her intensified, illuminating the chamber. She reached for the dress, and as I handed it to her, a wind swept through the room. The portraits on the walls seemed to shift, their eyes softening. Shadows retreated, and the air felt lighter, warmer. Amara smiled, a smile full of sorrow, relief, and gratitude. Slowly, she began to fade, her figure becoming less tangible, until all that remained was the golden crown lying on the chest. I lifted the crown carefully. Every time I touched it, I felt her presence, like a whisper carried on the wind. For the first time, I understood that remembering her had freed her from decades of silence and erasure. From that day on, the crown remained on my dresser. Sometimes, in the quiet of the evening, I think I hear a soft, joyful laugh, a bride finally free, wandering somewhere between memory and reality. After Amara vanished, I thought her story had ended, but the house didn't feel the same. Shadows lingered longer than they should, and at night I could swear I heard the faint sound of silk brushing against the floorboards, or the quiet murmur of a voice calling my name. One evening, I found an old diary hidden beneath the attic floorboards. The pages were brittle, filled with Amara's elegant handwriting. She wrote of her hopes, her dreams, and the excitement of her wedding day. But the entries grew darker, hinting at jealousy, betrayal, and a plan to erase her from memory. "They do not want me to exist," one entry read. "Every face I knew turns away. Only the dress remembers. Only the crown can carry me forward. If someone finds them, maybe they will remember me." The diary spoke of a man named Elias, a distant relative who had held a grudge against Amara's family. His jealousy had reached the point of creating the conditions that led to her disappearance. I realized that Amara's freedom might not be complete. The lingering shadows, the whispers, they were warnings. Something else, something tied to her erasure, was still in the house, waiting. I had to find out what. Determined, I returned to the hidden chamber beneath the attic, carrying the crown with me. The air was thick and heavy, the shadows pressing closer with every step. I placed the crown in the center of the room. The chamber began to glow again, brighter this time, and the temperature shifted, warmer and more inviting. A figure appeared, Amara, more solid than before, her face serene and peaceful. "This is where it ends," she whispered. But beware, some memories never rest. I felt a presence behind me and turned to see a shadowy figure vanish into the wall's Elias, or whatever remained of his spite. It had taken decades, but the house had stored its grudges, its darkness. Amara's spirit had been trapped not only by memory, but by his lingering malice. I stepped forward, holding the crown high. The light from it expanded, filling the chamber, pushing the darkness away. Amara reached for the crown, and as she touched it, her form solidified fully for the first time in decades. She smiled, a warm, radiant smile that carried relief, joy, and sorrow all at once. The shadows disappeared. The house felt alive again, yet silent in a way that promised peace. Amara spoke one last time. "Thank you for remembering me. Now I am free." She faded slowly, leaving the crown on the stone floor. I lifted it, holding it close. Every time I looked at it afterward, I could feel her presence, not haunting, but protective. A memory finally acknowledged. From that day on, I kept the crown on my dresser. Sometimes, when the wind rustles through the trees, I hear a soft, joyful laugh. It is the sound of a bride finally free, her story no longer forgotten, her life finally remembered. Thank you for listening to my story. If it captivated you, please subscribe, like, and share this video. I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments. Your support means the world.